being deliberately vague when you said the number of Americans was several thousand, or was it because you're not sure of the number? If you need to check the number, I mean, that's the most important number here, the number of Americans. So if it's just a matter of checking the number, can you do that and give it to us? Or if you're being deliberately vague, tell me why you're being deliberately vague.
I think I'm just going to leave it at several thousand right now, Dave.
Well, then tell us why.
Because I think the number is very fluid, and it literally changes nearly by the hour.
It's not more fluid than these 11,000, 37,000.
I'm going to leave it at several thousand right now. Wafa.
You said that you heard the public statements from Taliban about the red line, the August 31st. Does this mean that you didn't hear it directly from them, since you're communicating with them on a daily basis? Are you communicating with them on this issue? Did you tell them, discuss with them the need for maybe extending the August 31st?
I'm not going to speak to specificity with the communications that we're having with the Taliban on any given day. It happens several times a day. We are well aware of the stated desire by the Taliban to have this mission completed by the 31st of August. I would tell you that we too are still planning on completing it by the 31st of August. That is the mission that had been signed by the Commander-in-Chief, assigned to us, and that's what we're trying to execute at. Go ahead.
Are the forces remaining now in Kabul focusing on the evacuation mission, the U.S. forces, of course? Are they maintaining the capability to maybe deal with a threat from Taliban beyond the August 31st deadline, or maybe attacks?
Yeah, again, I appreciate the question in terms of hypothesizing past the 31st. We just aren't there yet. Our troops are focused on the mission, the three missions I just articulated, and that includes, as I said, being able to defend the airport, which means being able to defend themselves and their operations. And we have assets in place to allow them to do that as well. I'm not going to speculate about post-August 31st. We are head down, focused on keeping these numbers up as best we can, getting as many people out as we can by the end of the month. And if there needs to be a discussion about extending that timeline, then we absolutely will have that discussion at the appropriate time with the Commander-in-Chief. Let me go to the phones, which I have not done yet. Jeff Shogel, you get the first one.
Thank you very much. Regarding the incident, was the gunman killed, and was it U.S. troops who shot this person?
I do not know on either, Jeff. You could certainly reach out to Central Command for more detail at that level of the incident. But again, this just happened, Jeff, and so I just don't think we have that level of forensic detail to offer you today.
Thank you.
Carla.
I think he has one more question.
Do you have one more, Jeff?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. From what we're hearing on the ground, only American citizens and green card holders are being allowed into the airport. Do you know when that will change and Afghans at risk will be able to enter?
As I mentioned to Jen, it's for American citizens. It's for SIV applicants can still be processed through the gates. At-risk Afghans are absolutely being considered for entry. Carla.
Two questions. First of all, how many people have been killed at the airport? We've been hearing reports of 7, 9. A NATO official told ABC there were 20 killed in and around their airport. What's that number?
You're talking about Afghans? At the
if you're
gates?
adding the people who were killed on Monday during the incident when the C-17 took off,
okay.
The 2 that were killed during skirmishes inside the airport, the guy killed today, what's that total number of people who have died?
Less than the number. I don't have exact numbers of that, so I can't answer the exact number right now.
Can you take that question and get back to us on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also you had mentioned, sir, that the capacity was 5,800 troops at the airport right now. And then the Secretary of Defense had told us last week that he did not have the capability to go out and do extractions because there's just not enough troops. They're defending the airport. Have you asked for authorization of additional troops to go into the airport to help with potential extraction should it come to that?
Yeah, I think use word capability and the actual troop number, I think, are two different things. So we have 5,000, approximately 5,800 forces. And as I briefed over the week, as forces flowed in, capability continued to increase. Initial security was the most important ability to establish, because without that security, the ability to do other things is just not possible. So as our capability increased, and at that 5,800 number, as you've seen, we have the capability and have executed other operations to ensure that American citizens are being brought in safely and prepared for evacuation.
So just so I can understand what you're saying, just to recap, you think that at 5,800 troops, the U.S. has the capability now to expand the perimeter at the airport and continue all of this or to do whatever the president had mentioned with the opening up the perimeter, and also to do extractions if needed, or are you going to ask for authorization of more troops?
And what I said is at 5,800, we're able to continue to secure the airfield, continue to increase safety there, and continue to do the operations that we already have.
And Carla, what the Secretary said was that where he was on last Wednesday, that we didn't have the capability to do large-scale, massive movements of people, but he did say, if there's an incident where somebody's in extremis and we need to get them in small numbers, we can do that, and we have been doing that. And as the General said, that was last Wednesday. Over the course of the ensuing days, more capability has flown in, more troops have flown in, and so we do have the ability to help when we can and where we can to help Americans move towards the gates. And we're not going to talk about the details of each and every one of those, but we do have those capabilities.
One last, so I guess what I'm asking is, do you foresee the need to authorize additional troops to go in? Should you have a hard stop at August 31st and you have to ramp up capacity again, do you foresee authorizing additional troops?
I don't think it would be helpful to get ahead of where we are right now. There are no plans at this time to request or to authorize additional U.S. forces to this mission. Courtney.
Are U.S. troops leaving the airport on a regular basis? I still don't understand what's going on.
Courtney, on occasion, as needed, our commanders have the authority that they need to use their assets and their forces to help assist Americans who need to get to the airport on a case-by-case basis. Your question was leaving in a regular. It's not regular. I don't want to leave you with the idea that we're somehow patrolling the streets of Kabul, but on occasion, where there's a need and there's a capability to meet that need, our commanders on the ground are doing what they feel they need to do to help Americans reach the airport. And there's a variety of methods that can be affected, and without going into detail, we're using the variety of methods at our disposal.
So we know about the Chinooks last Thursday at the Barron Hotel. Have there been additional cases since then? And can you tell us any details about
There
that?
has been at least one additional instance where rotary airlift was used to help Americans get from outside the airport into the airport, and I think I'm just going to leave it at that today.
I got more. Your planning organization. When do you expect that you will have to, assuming that you're sticking to this August 31st deadline, when will you have to stop taking in additional people at the airport to evacuate? Because you're going to have to get the 5,800 American U.S. troops out, right?
You mean stop taking in evacuees?
Correct. Yes. When and additional Americans, whomever is left out there, like what is the deadline so that you'll be able to get the American military who are there at the airport supporting and any last embassy people who are there out? When will you stop accepting the evacuees in?
I mean, remember, it's important to remember that we are not the only people flying evacuees out. So it's certainly conceivable that even without a U.S. military footprint there, that people could still be able to get out of Kabul. And I don't have specific retrograde timeline to speak to today. We'll work through that as appropriate as we get closer to the end of the mission. And as you well know, we very methodically and deliberately plan in the movement out of of assets and equipment and resources so that we can preserve the capability we need for as long as we need it. And I think I just leave it at that.
I only asked that because it took several days to flow these 5,800 in. So I know that there were logistical hurdles to get them in. Presumably it won't take as long out, but it could theoretically take a day or two to get everyone, the military, back out. So that may bump the timeline back from August 31st to the 29th.
Yeah, look, clearly
Germans are speaking about 28.
Yeah.
Clearly, you have to do some backward planning for retrograde. Obviously, I am not prepared today to speak to the specific dates or process by which that would occur. But I mean, obviously, we're thinking through that right now, and a lot of that's going to depend on how far we get as fast as we can get, by the end of the month. I just don't want to speculate now about what that's going to look like. But let me just back up. I mean, the focus is on getting as many people out as we can, as fast as we can. That means being able to secure and defend the airport, which we are doing now. And we will factor all of those things in to whatever the departure timeline looks like to make sure we can continue to maximize throughput as best we can and without getting anybody hurt. And thus far, with obviously some exceptions, some small exceptions, I mean, we've been fortunate that nobody has. Okay.